Hey everyone, it's Luke here from Astro Awakening. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you to my friends and followers and my community for your continued support. This video is all about Pluto. We need to talk about Pluto. Pluto has just moved into Aquarius, the first time in 224 years since Pluto has been into Aquarius. There's a lot of hype around this, but I want to demystify that and just help you understand what the function of Pluto is as a planet that we look to in correlation to an aspect of consciousness. The real distinction I want to make at the beginning of this video is correlation over causation, right? If we get taken away and carried away by the images presented to us by outer space and planets and NASA and things like that, we miss the purpose and point and the beauty and the art of astrology. Astrology is not so much interested in what the physicality of that planet looks like, the distance it is, and the size that it is and what it's made of. It's more about how that planetary body and its movement through the zodiac correlates to an aspect of consciousness. If we imagine source consciousness as unity, oneness, wholeness, God, quantum, unlimitless, eternity, infinite. As source energy goes through different vibrational frequencies and begins to manifest through the different planes of vibration, once it gets to the speed of light, we then have it starting to descend into form, which we then call matter or material or earth, the world, our body, physicality. And as it does so through these spheres of influence. It just so happens that the planets, wandering stars as our ancestors called them, also correspond to different vibrational frequencies. Is the planet causing the effect? I believe it's not. I believe it's a correlation, not causation. So a bit of a caveat at the beginning, just to sort of get your head out of that thinking of the planet's doing this. And how can, if the sun's that big and Mercury's that small, how can that do that? How can Mercury be so disruptive when it's retrograde? And it's not. Mercury's not being disruptive when it's retrograde. Mercury in retrograde is telling us about an aspect of consciousness relating to thought, to communication, to mind, to navigation and transportation, to marketing and advertising, to ideas, to opinions, to perspective, all the things that aspect of consciousness expresses as. So that's just a way to think about it. Now let's get on to Pluto. Pluto, apparently the smallest planet. They say in homeopathy that the smaller the dose, the bigger the pack. The bigger the punch it packs, right? And that's like Pluto. It's like supposedly the smallest tiny little thing, the furthest distance away, but it can be super powerful. Interesting to note that the compound used in nuclear fusion, right, that creates this division of the atom, which causes the nuclear reaction, is plutonium. Like that's symbolically synchronistic to the power that Pluto has. In some lines of thinking, it's said to be source. It's said to be the soul at its pure, undifferentiated self. In astrology, I like to look at Pluto in a chart and say that this is the soul yearning of the person, the soul desire of the person. It's the unconscious aspect of the person. You have the unconscious, the subconscious, the self-conscious, the superconscious. We're looking at Pluto, we're looking at the deep unconsciousness. Pluto in your natal chart is going to tell you where you're most likely to transform through crisis. And crisis can come about in so many different ways. It could be a health crisis. It could be a physical crisis. It could be a relationship breakdown. It could be a, catastrophic sort of psychotic breakdown. It could be a spiritual crisis. It could be a career crisis, like a relationship crisis. There's so many ways in which crises can come. And that word, especially over the last couple of years, it sort of triggers a lot of people. Just think of a crisis as, it's creating this point of no return where things are going to break down to be resolved. What Pluto can do leading up to the point of crisis is polarize particular aspect of life. What does polarization mean? Into positive and negative, and the extremes get felt, and you can find yourself navigating or resonating or aligning to a particular pole. An example of this would be maybe Pluto's having its crisis type expression in a relationship for you, and all of a sudden between you and your partner there's this polarization, right? And he's the bad guy and you're the good guy, or it's just getting harder and harder to connect and resonate. And usually what happens is, as that polarization happens, it goes to extremes to create this point of crisis for a collapsing of those poles and a breaking through. And it's the resolution of the crisis that brings about new order for the psyche, right? A new way of being. Often what's happening at that point is the deep, unexpressed, unconscious desire of the soul of the being are forcing their way up into reality, and they want expression. When Pluto is active in your life, it's a period of time that it demands authenticity, integrity, and truth. And when you have to sort of get comfortable with the shadow aspect of reality, the hidden side of self. If you're comfortable diving into shadow, all the parts of yourself that you judge as not good, bad, not able to see the light of day, you're in sort of conflict to the self, that casts this shadow. So shadow work, dark night of the soul, going through your metamorphosis period of time. This is all the Pluto themes. If you're repressing of that aspect of yourself, denying an expression, often what it can do is it can manifest for you externally as an oppressive person or experience or organization or group of people that tend to be like against you, like they're out to get me. And often what that is your own shadow being projected out into your reality for you to confront and integrate. Again, if this is happening in the context of relationship, all of a sudden it's the person that you're with that's got all the problems. They're the bad guy. They're the ones manipulating. They're doing all that. If that manifests for you, the key is to look within, to turn within and go, where am I not in alignment to my truth? What's the type of truth that Pluto wants? Pluto wants the truth of how you feel deeply, the real truth of that. And Pluto wants the truth of what you really think, right? If you're denying that in relationship to a relationship or an aspect of life or even your own personal health, you're going to be confronted then with the denial of that projected out into your world for you to integrate. And it can be quite challenging, can be quite, you end up in really oppressive or abusive situations, conflicting situations. Pluto's theme is to manifest often through the process of a death and a rebirth. Sometimes death is symbolic, sometimes it's literal. There's a death which creates a catalyst of change and growth and transformation. The ultimate pathway for Pluto as it interacts with us is to refine the soul, to get us, this avatar, this concept of superconscious, subconscious, self-conscious aspect of self in alignment to the source of the soul, the real truth. And it's that source within that Pluto asks us to do, is to turn in and down into it. We can't hide from it. We can't distract ourselves from it. The more we try, the more we're putting energy into a polarity, which is going to create a bigger and bigger and bigger crisis point. And for some people, it has to get to a crisis point. It has to get to a crisis point for any type of change or transformation to happen. They're reluctant, they're avoidant, they're resistant, they're repressive of that desire to, this isn't right, things need to change. So they repress that. Another way to think about Pluto is volcanic, right? It's the earth holding back and resisting the pressure of the earth core to release, right? And the more pressure builds, the more explosive it can become. The more you try to prevent the process of change and transformation happen in your life, the more likely it is to erupt, right? And be catastrophic in its process. And for you then to be able to pick yourself back up and, refine yourself through that process and heal yourself through that process. The end result of a Pluto experience is that you're going to be a more refined, more aligned, more determined person. For some people, and this has been pretty evident over the last few years, sometimes the soul, or let's just say that the character, the nature, the body, the physicality, the subconscious, conscious, superconscious, is tired and worn out and doesn't have the life force to go through such a transformation. And sometimes that means that the crisis that can come for someone at all different ages and all different times is the process of a death. It's the soul going, okay, that's time out, time out, time out. Where it can then return into, the afterlife and take a break from the pressure that it's put itself under. So what's happening? I want to talk a little bit about what's going on for Pluto, especially some key birth dates for people, because you're about to have your Pluto moments. Some challenging, some profound, some transformational, some empowering. And power, right? If you get to the source of something, you get to the undifferentiated, latent potential of that energy. That's power. External power that we see in the world is but a fraction of the source power that we have within us. So Pluto in a natal chart, when it's well positioned and it's strong, it can mean that this is a powerful area of change and growth for you, of transformation and alignment. It can also mean that it's a lot of crisis, but it's also where you're going to grow the most. Pluto, if we think about another symbol or a way to think about it, would be the phoenix. The symbol of the phoenix is to be burnt and purified, just like you would put base metal into a melting pot and heat it up to burn away everything that wasn't pure. It's so that you could extract the purity of it. Pluto is like that as well. It's the purification process. The phoenix being purified, everything being burned away that's not in alignment, so that the phoenix can rise from the ashes. On a side note, my belief is that's what's happening in the United States of America. They're going through a Plutonian phoenix point of great transformation into their phoenix. How do we know that's happening? Because look at all of the mud, all of the muck, all of the dysfunction, all of the impurities that are rising to the surface politically, socially, economically, through the media. It's just like, what is going on? Well, this is the Pluto transformation through crisis and the purging of everything that's not pure coming to light so it can be cleansed, so that a new can emerge out of that, more empowered. And I have a lot of faith that it's not going to be an easy path or an easy road for the United States, but they're going to be a beacon again, as they always were and once were, especially for freedom, sovereignty, for the people. But it's going to be a pretty mucky way to get there. I think I'm an optimist and I hold out hope for them. So, side note, coming back to this, for me personally, I've had a lot of Pluto moments in my natal chart. As you can see here, I have Pluto in my 10th house conjunct Mars and Venus. Needless to say that every single relationship I've ever had, especially when it comes to partner intimacy, boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, sort of boyfriend, fuck, not that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but girlfriend, you know what I mean, intimate partner. Every single significant one that I have had has been a huge, huge transformation for me, or the both of us, or her, in so many different ways. My career, 10th house Pluto. I have gone through death and rebirth of my career. of my life path, of my direction, my goals, my ambitions, my public image has gone through so much transformation. And that's what I've just resigned to the fact that that's the way in which I refine myself, is through those aspects of life. Pluto is conjunct Mars. Mars is ruling my 12th house, my 11th house, I don't know, my 12th house. So endings and undoings, karmic releasing. My 5th house, creativity, joy, romance, children. These are areas for me that are massive and profound, where a lot of irrevocable change happens. Life transforming in those areas massively. There's some key moments in my life, if I look back in my adult life, where I can now, in retrospect, look back at my chart and look to what was happening in my life and where was Pluto in my life. So I'll dive into this quickly because I find it's helpful for you to understand that, it helps to understand different shifts and changes that we're going to go through. And it's going to be really significant shortly when I point out, for those people born at specific times, the generation with Pluto in Libra, the generation with Pluto in Scorpio, and what changes are coming through now as Pluto's come into Aquarius and why that is. So hold with me for this little bit. But when my Pluto transit over my ascendant, which is opposite the descendant point, ascendant is self, descendant is relationship other, I met my first wife. I didn't get married, I met her when it transited over the ascendant. When it transited back and then come over the second time, I got married to my first wife. And then my ascendant's 27 degrees of Sagittarius, the galactic center. I'm aligned to that. As Pluto moved out of Sagittarius and into Capricorn, hello, global financial crisis, actually happened when Pluto was in Sagittarius, but it had made a transition into Capricorn. You'll notice that my sun here is at 1 degree of Virgo. My Saturn's at 3 degrees of Virgo. I have a Sun-Saturn conjunction in Earth, and Pluto moved into Earth. When Pluto moved into Earth and passed across the trine to my Sun-Saturn, I became a father for the first time. So getting married, life transition. I'm no longer just an autonomous, single. I'm now partnered up and committed to someone. That's a huge transformation of the self, hence the first house and ascendant. When it trined my Sun-Saturn, Sun, the father, Saturn, the father figure, the authority, right, in my 9th house up there close to my ascendant, when it trined it, I became literally a father for the first time. I also went through, when Pluto squared itself, Pluto squared Pluto, which I'm going to talk about shortly for the rest of you. When Pluto squared Pluto for me in 2014-15, I went through my midlife crisis. I went through my the world is not the way I thought it is. I started to awaken. I had a desire no longer to live the life I'd been living. Who I was being, I didn't want to be that version of myself anymore. I had some deep psychological changes to my desires, to my emotional wants and needs. I changed everything about my life through my awakening journey, which then led to the breakdown of my relationship, becoming a single parent. I even through that period in my Pluto square Pluto, when I was stuck in the mud, when I was resistant to the truth of what was going on for me, when I was repressive of what I was really feeling and thinking about myself and my life, and I felt so stuck. And it wasn't my fault. It was because of all the circumstances in my life, which I know now isn't the case because we take responsibility that the circumstances of the outer world. All change happens internally, right? The outer world will reflect the internal change. And I know that now, but at the time, I was so resistant. I was so, feeling oppressed by the reality I'd created for myself. And I felt so stuck. And right in the middle of my Pluto square Pluto period of time, which is a 2-year period, 3-year period sometimes, I was chopping a tree down and I broke my back. The tree landed on me in a funny way and broke my L1, 2, and 3 transverse processes on the side of my spine. I was lucky that it didn't break my spine. I was lucky that it didn't cut my cord. I could have died. Like, it was just this freak accident. But what it was a Pluto crisis. It was a moment, and Uranus was very present here, so it was very sudden and unexpected, let me tell you that. But there was a crisis now, which created a need for a resolution, which meant that incident was the pathway for me to sell my business and start to make the transition that I needed to in my life to free from this oppressive reality that I created for myself. Pluto is such a powerful little guy, packs a potent punch, nothing to be afraid of if you're willing to confront the true self, if you're willing to confront your deepest desires and just surrender to them. So bringing me now to what's happening as Pluto moves into Aquarius. Aquarius is a fixed air sign. So what are the fixed signs? We've got Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So I should go Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. The Pluto-Taurus generation, not around anymore. We're no longer earthbound. Pluto has a really strange orbit. It's not circular, it's elliptical, right? So it's oval shaped, which means that it spends longer in some signs than it does in others. It is the co-ruler of Scorpio. Pluto spends about 12 years in Scorpio, and opposite in Taurus, it spends up to 30 years going through that sign. Can you imagine? What a drain. We had Pluto in Capricorn for about 15 years. We're going to have Pluto in Aquarius for about 20 years. For those people with Pluto in Scorpio, especially the early Scorpio, so that is anyone born from around November 1982 to about August 1985. You've got Pluto in Scorpio. That's a fixed water sign, and Pluto's now moved into fixed air. You are going through a very profound transition in your life, a change in the very structure and nature of your being and what you desire and your roles you play, like you name it. When you get through this period over the next, say, 3 years, because it's really significant for those born 82 to not 85, especially for those born, anyone from 82 to 85 is experiencing either the beginning of something, the middle of it, or the end of it, in far as this great transformation taking place. So more specifically, November 83 to May 84 birthdays, September 84 to November 84, and June 85 to August 85. If you fall in those brackets specifically, you right now are in the peak period of your Pluto square Pluto. It happens usually late 30s, early 40s. It's one of the key aspects in astrology that we refer to as part of the trinity of the midlife crisis. There's the Pluto square Pluto, there's the Neptune square Neptune, and there's the Uranus opposite Uranus, all happening around a similar period of time. And stuff's got to change. Shit's got to change. You're purging. You're letting go of the not self. You're letting go of all of the, you've gotten the teenager out of you. You've got the child out of you. You've got the immaturity out of you. You've got the experimental version of you out of you. You've gone through all of the, I'm not who I am. I don't know who I am. And now you're just like, you know what? Fuck it. This is who I am. This is what I want. So huge transitions around this time. For those people I mentioned before, and I'll put it up on the screen so you can see. I'll put it up here again. You're having Pluto square Pluto right now. You're going to enter into this metamorphosis process. You are the caterpillar as you enter. You go through a period of darkness as you enter the cocoon. And you, in that period of transformation, you're not the caterpillar and you are not yet the butterfly. You're the mushiness in between. You're not either of those. You're like this other thing. Don't rush the process. Slow down. Get serious about, different points and parts of your life. Be true to yourself. Spend a lot of time reflecting. What can be very helpful for this period of time is consultation and counsel with others, wise elders in particular, those that have been where you've been, gone through it, done what you've done in whatever aspect of life. So that could be a psychologist, that could be an astrologer, that could be a counselor, that could be a support person. Do not lean on those personally associated to you, those close to you, family and friends, and those types of people. Why? Because there's prejudice and judgment and preconceived ideas, and there's attachments and entanglements, dependencies and codependencies, and all types of things which will just make it more complicated. It's almost like you're going through this cocoon, you don't know what's happening, and then it just compounds it. It's more mush because you don't know what. So you want someone to help guide you, that if you are struggling to come to terms with change and transformation and a shift in your desires, you want someone to guide you that's not attached, not emotionally attached, preferably elder, because they've been there. They've already been there, right? So if you've got some hotshot, out of uni psychologist and you're going to see them and they haven't yet been through this personally, they may have read about it, they may have studied it, but if they haven't actually experienced it, they're probably not the best person to go to for support or guidance. But it is a period of time where counsel, psychological work, whether it's, this fringe aspect with this type of stuff I do, or whether it's scientific and you go down the pathway of seeking psychotherapy, if it's calling to you, do it. I went through in my personal period of Pluto square Pluto, a very dark night of the soul and a very depressive point. And I went through a suicidal period of life, about 6 months, where I was not good. I ended up on antidepressants. I was seeing a psychologist. It was not a good way. I wanted out. I was so drowning in my own mess. And I just thought, I don't want to be here. And I make light of that in the sense that I wouldn't have gone through with it because something was always going to prevent me from doing such thing. But I understand now. I have empathy for those that get to that point and don't know what to do or how to turn. And I'm here to say that there's help. There is help. Why I do the work that I do, why I help support people and use astrology as my tool to do that, is because I've been through the shit. I don't know what it's like to not have anyone and no support and no one to talk to, and you just feel alone. It's isolating. It's everything shrinks in around you. Your whole world shrinks in around you. So you got to put the life straw up and suck some oxygen. Sometimes that's just reaching out and getting the support. Anyway, I digress. So for you guys, you're 1982, November 1982 to August 1985 in particular. Brace yourself, right? The square from Pluto to Pluto is things have to change, and it. It's just you've got to lean into it. You've got to confront it. You've got to be willing and courageous to go through it. I can guarantee you this. The other side is liberation. The other side is freedom. The other side is that which you desire, that which you've always yearned for. You just have to have the courage to surrender to it and stop resisting it. It does mean that sometimes big fundamental changes happen in your life. Work, career, health, relationships, parentage, children, divorce, death. Like, these are the themes. And it's no good trying to sugarcoat it and make it all rainbows and fucking lollipops, because the reality is we're here in the physical plane. We're here in this world of duality and polarity. We're here with a dark and a light, a night and a day. So we're here to experience this. It's not to shine away from it, pull away from it. Remember, when you look away from that, it's going to, you're going to be in opposition and conflict to it. It's going to be always triggering you. So you've got to lean into it. Shadow work, people helping you with shadow work, that type of thing. Whew. Now, remember, keep going. Just keep wading through it. Keep pushing through it. It depends on your soul journey. It depends on your past experiences. It depends on your karma. It depends on your life as to how profound and how crisis-driven these changes will be for you. It's different for everyone. How do you know what to expect? How do you best prepare? How do you sort of get a bit of an awareness of what's going on and go, okay, that makes sense? Astrology, right? It's correlation, not causation. It's not like, oh, Pluto's doing it. No, but Pluto's there. The clock, it's like looking at the clock and going, oh, it's that time. Oh, the second and the minute are there, and then the hour's there, and it's on that. Oh, okay, that's the time. Oh, it's that time. And guess what? For most people, when you tell them what time it is based on their chart, they go, "Oh, I sort of really had that feeling already." Oh, I know. Why? Because it's the unconscious coming to the consciousness. It's coming through the subconscious. It starts to, if I looked at myself going through what I did back in 2014, 15, 16, 17, that period of time, man, there was no wonder that people around me and close to me were like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What's going on? Because, you start to behave not like you've been behaving. It's almost like you don't want to be that avatar, that you don't want to play that role. You don't want to be that person anymore. And the truth of the matter is, good. You shouldn't be. It's just a version of yourself. It's not the pure, enlightened. It's not the highest version of you. It's not the most, free and sovereign and content and fulfilled. It's not. Because otherwise, this process wouldn't take place if that were the case. And you can hide from it and deny from it and distract yourself and entertain yourself out of it and think about it, and it will just create the crisis. There's no avoiding this type of energy. It happens. It can be a great time of spiritual awakening or spiritual crisis if you've not yet gotten onto your spiritual pathway and you're not having any meaning beyond your mundane reality. It can be an existential crisis where you start to question the meaning of life. What am I fucking doing here? What's the point of all this? And I say when that happens, good. Keep asking the questions. Dig. Look into things. Go a little deeper. Pierce the veil. Open up your eyes. It's like that picture. Look at this picture here. See? The guy sticking his head out of the dome. What's out here? It's a phenomenal period of time. I love it. I mean, I've got Jupiter in the 8th house of irrevocable change and transformation, exalted in Cancer. So I actually feel good in this shit. I'm like, yeah, let's do this shit. For some people, it's like, ah. Now, for those born 1971 to 1982, right, you have, like me, Pluto in Libra. And your generation, my generation, is about to move into positions of leadership as this world transitions. Let me come back to that shortly. Specifically for those born 1971, about October 1971 to March 1972, and August 72 to September 72, in particular. You have Pluto and Libra at very early degrees. Libra is an air sign. Aquarius, which Pluto just moved into Aquarius, is an air sign. Air to air creates a trine. There's a free flow of energy. There's no obstructive force between Pluto in the sky and Pluto in your chart. So this means that the type of change and transformation happens with ease, with pace, with rapid precision, with empowerment. The trine from Pluto to Pluto happening sort of mid-40s, mid to late 40s, is a point of powerful, like you've been through the difficult transformation, now you're going through the empowerment transformation. I can feel that. I can feel that for myself. Just blew a testy. Pluto in Libra generation, right? Pluto in Libra generation, the desire of the soul with Pluto in Libra, that's everyone from 1972 to 82. Pluto was only in Libra for about 10 years. The desire for your soul is for what? Peace, harmony, balance, beauty, love. And I'm telling you now, Generation X, which this generation is a part of, I'm a part of, right? X is what? It marks a cross. It's a crossover point, right? And it's a crossover point because with the fucking shit we see going on in the world and the destruction and this toxicity that we see in every aspect of society and culture around the Western world in particular, but not immune to it in other cultures, it needs to be broken down, purged, purified, and peace, harmony, and balance needs to return. And that is the duty of those souls that came here between 72 and 82. And now Pluto moving into Aquarius, the transformation of humanity, it needs new leaders. When we look into the world at the moment and we get and look at the leaders that we've either got old, decrepit, outdated people, or we've got corrupted, self-serving people that haven't got the best interests of the collective. They've got, big corp pulling their strings. And the people need to transform and rise up, and it needs leaders. For those with Pluto in Virgo, so pre-1972, you guys are the new sages. What's the sage? The wise person, the counsel, right? You're not the leaders. That's the Pluto in Libra generation coming through, the new leaders that bringing back harmony and peace and balance and order and justice. Okay, that's what we are here to do and dish out and to bring in. Because why? We're the crossover generation. After us, they don't have any of the baby boomer aspect of reality. They were born after that period of time. The X, right? We grew up in the 70s and the 80s, right? But we also have lived now with modern advancements in technology and the transformation of reality. So we're that crossover generation. And it's time, if you're watching this and you have Pluto in Libra, it's time to rise. It's time to be the change. It's time to empower yourself as a leader in your world, your reality. You don't have to be on the world stage to be a leader. You can lead your life with integrity, with balance, with harmony, with joy, with love in your heart, with a sense of justice and what is right. There's a reason why Saturn's exalted in Libra, and Libra cardinal air. So you've got fixed air being the zodiac. You've got mutable air being everything under the dome, right? All of the information. It's television, it's the transmitters, the frequency, it's the Wi-Fi, it's the Twitters, it's the talking, it's the media, it's all of that information that's going on. You exalt above that, you get the clarity of that fixed air of Aquarius, which is the zodiac and the wisdom from the stars or our ancestors or the gods, whatever you want to call it. When you exalt above fixed air, you get to cardinal air and you have Libra, which is the heart, which is the love, exalts. And then you have Saturn, the planet of what? Authority, the crown, the boss, in exaltation in Libra. So there's a reason for that, and it's time now for you. Pluto and Libra generation, 1972 to 82, time to rise. You are the rise of Skywalker. If you haven't yet watched the series of Star Wars, that's your homework. Go back and start at the beginning and watch them. Watch them in the order chronological, right? Don't watch them in the order that they were released, because it was 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. So you don't want to watch them like that. You want to watch them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And in particular, because of the cinematics of the last 3, 7, 8, 9, The Force Awakens, The Return of the Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker. I'm telling you, if you watch that with eyes open, ears open, you are going to see what's happening in the world, and you're going to see symbolically what they're trying to depict in that. And it's time, young Jedi, young Skywalker, to rise. And Pluto is going to rise up out of the ashes. Pluto is going to rise up, right? Transformation through crisis. We've already been through the contrived one, the one that they tried to implement to maintain control and to suppress the Great Awakening and to control the demolition process. It ain't working, right? We're still here. We're still strong. We're stronger than ever, and we will not be beaten. And it's time for great change. And now is the time. Brace yourself. Pluto transitioned into a Capricorn, and we had the global financial crisis, right? When Pluto was in Sagittarius, we had the war on terror. It was an ideological war, right? We had the breaking down of the Twin Towers. Pluto in Aquarius, Aquarius is the sign of technology, right? Science advancements, AI, artificial intelligence, Is that going to be integrated? Can we work with that? Is it positive? Is it negative? All these questions will be answered. But Pluto is more importantly you and me and the people. Pluto is humanity. And it's time for humanity to rise. And we don't rise by looking at what was. We rise by looking towards what could be. And we align ourselves to that. And that's where we're at. And I'm excited. If you want to get an astrological reading, a personal astrological reading, I read for people all over the world. I'm based in Australia. We do it via Zoom. It's recorded. I have a copy of your chart. It's a very relaxed discussion. It's just you talking you with your chart, helping you understand you, what's going on for you. So I have people in North America and the UK. I have people in Singapore and Portugal. I have people in the Guernsey and Jersey Islands off the UK. I have people in Spain. I have people in Italy. I have people all over Singapore, Japan. I have some wonderful, wonderful clients all over the world. If you would like to be one of those, please get in contact. For a very short time between now and the end of March, March 31st, if you use the code, I'll flash it on the screen now, when you book your reading, you'll get 20% off, whatever the service is. So I urge you to do that. After the end of this month, my website's getting an overhaul. My services are getting an overhaul. My price point is getting an overhaul. And the way in which I do what I do is being overhauled, the way I deliver my services. So hence the flash sale before this transition happens for me. I'll end with this. Don't be afraid. We confront fear with love. We overcome fear and hate and anger and all those things with love in our heart, with kindness. Pay it forward. Commit that random act of kindness. Bank some positive karma. Be the change you want to see in the world. Stop looking to what has been, what's going on, right? All change that is fundamental and irreversible and transformational and, you know, and it lasts, lasting change is always within us. The power is within you, and it's time to reclaim that power, take the power back. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for everyone that watches my videos, even till the end, that likes them, that puts the thumbs up, that shares them, and for everyone that engages and supports the work that I do. God bless you. I love you. I see you. I'm here with you, fighting alongside you. I am you. Peace out.